Good evening, I'm Michael and you're watching Kini News, the show that brings you today's biggest stories. Prime Minister Muhyiddin Yassin today launched the 50th anniversary celebrations of the Rukun Negara. During his speech, he reminded Malaysians on the values that bind the nation together. But before we go any further, do you remember the Rukun Negara? Then it's only proper to start this story with the Prime Minister himself leading the pledge.
Maka kami, rakyat Malaysia, berikrar, akan menumpukan seluruh tenaga dan usaha kami untuk mencapai cita-cita tersebut. Berdasarkan atas prinsip-prinsip yang berikut. Kepercayaan kepada Tuhan. Kesetiaan kepada raja dan negara. Keluhuran perlembagaan. Kedaulatan undang-undang. Kesopanan dan kesusilaan.
During his speech at the launch of the 50th anniversary celebrations of the Rukun Negara, Prime Minister Muhyiddin Yassin reminded Malaysians how the 5 principles form the foundation of every Malaysian's national identity.
Tidak kiralah sama ada anda adalah seorang Melayu, Cina, India, Sikh, Kadazan ataupun Dusun, Murut, Iban, Melanau, orang asal ataupun mana-mana kaum dan suku kaum sekalipun, sekiranya anda bergelar warga negara Malaysia, maka inilah ciri-ciri yang wajib anda miliki.
The Rukun Negara, or the National Principles in English, was declared on Merdeka Day 1970, over a year after the nation suffered one of its bloodiest riots on May 13th, 1969. The principles were introduced in a bid to solidify strong national unity and to spur prosperity and development. In his speech today, Muhyiddin also said that the colour of one's skin should not become an obstacle in achieving unity and shared national values. He noted that arriving at where the nation is today was a challenging journey made possible by the dedication of all Malaysians to realise the values of the Rukun Negara. Now we take a look at the country's latest COVID-19 situation. There were no local transmissions, however, imported cases are still being reported. For the second consecutive day, Malaysia has reported 0 local transmissions of COVID-19. However, there were 6 imported cases, with 5 of which involving Malaysians. Health Ministry Director General Dr. Norisham Abdullah said 3 of the imported cases originated from Indonesia, 2 from Singapore and 1 from Egypt. Dr. Hisham also reported that there were 13 recoveries, leaving only 63 active cases. Total active cases are now lower than it was on March 7th, when there were 70 active cases. 2 patients remain in intensive care, with 1 incubated. There were also no new fatalities reported today, with the death toll remaining at 121. Meanwhile, another COVID-19 cluster in the country has come to an end. Today it was the cleaning crew cluster in Kuala Lumpur, which had 4 cases. No more active cases have been reported from this cluster. 4 Al Jazeera documentary makers have been summoned by the cops for questioning. It's expected to happen either this week or the next. Police have notified 4 Al Jazeera documentary makers to make themselves available for questioning. This was over Al Jazeera's documentary titled Locked Up in Malaysia's Lockdown, which aired last weekend. According to Sinar Harian, this was confirmed by Bukit Aman CID Deputy Director Mior Farid Al-Trash Wahid. He said that they might have their statements recorded in the coming week or the next. Mior said the 4 are the director, editor, journalist and videographer. He added that the media organisation had yet to respond to the notice. Police said that they are also looking for the Bangladeshi national Muhammad Raihan Kabir, who was interviewed in the documentary. Locked Up in Malaysia's Lockdown, which aired on Al Jazeera's 101 East programme, highlighted the government crackdown and the handling of undocumented migrants during the movement control order in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. Since its airing, many netizens have taken to social media to call out the alleged misinterpretation of facts in the report, with calls for the reporters and Raihan to be deported. So while the Al Jazeera documentary itself made headlines in the country, one TV host has managed to make headlines as well because of the comments she made about the documentary.
Katakan bahawa Al-Jahiliyah ini tidak mempunyai asas. Saya Helena Pahlavi, Al Jazeera, you shut up.
The TV host who said those things on national television said she did it in the name of patriotism. After receiving backlash for her comments, part-time anchor Herlina Pahlavi wrote on Twitter that being fearless and patriotic on Malaysian TV has its own consequences. The consequences she may be referring to could have something to do with Communications and Multimedia Minister Saifuddin Abdullah saying action had been taken over Herlina's comments. The minister said one may disagree with the Al Jazeera report, but one cannot call them such a name. He added that he had been informed by the Bernama chairperson that action has been taken against the host over the comments made during the Malaysia Petang Ini program aired on Bernama TV on Monday. Saifuddin, however, did not detail the nature of the action taken. The incident came following the recent airing of a contentious documentary by Al Jazeera on the alleged mistreatment of undocumented migrants in the country during the COVID-19 pandemic. In his 25-minute documentary, Locked Up in Malaysia's Lockdown, Al Jazeera deemed immigration raids military style, alleged that minors were handcuffed and migrants were housed under cramped conditions. The documentary also questioned if the crackdown was the, quote, practical reality of dealing with the pandemic, or is it racism? The report has angered the government, which denied the claims of racism and maintained that the handling of migrants were done according to the law. Azmi Sharum will now be carrying out the duties of Azhar Azizan Harun at the Election Commission. But who is Azhar set to replace? We will find out next week. Azhar Azizan Harun has resigned as Election Commission chairperson effective June 29th. This was revealed by the EC in a statement released today. Now Deputy Chairperson Azmi Sharum will assume the duty of EC Chairperson until a new one is appointed in accordance with Article 114(7) of the Federal Constitution. The statement also said Yang di-Pertuan Agong Sultan Abdullah Sultan Ahmad Shah has consented to Azhar's resignation. Azhar was appointed EC Chairperson on September 21, 2018 by the Pakatan Harapan administration to replace Muhammad Hashim Abdullah. Azhar is now expected to be appointed as the next Dewan Rakyat Speaker. According to Dewan Rakyat Deputy Speaker Nga Komeng earlier this week, Prime Minister Muhyiddin Yassin has nominated Azhar in a motion which will be the first to be tabled at the upcoming Dewan Rakyat sitting on July 13th. Proton held its first ever virtual car launch today to unveil a very special version of the company's illustrious saga. For about 40,000 ringgit, it could be yours. Proton celebrated the 35th anniversary of the Proton saga today with the launch of the 35th anniversary edition. Proton chairperson Syed Faisal Alba shared the history of the car and the significance it holds for the country during its first ever virtual car launch on Facebook. Syed Faisal said that since the launch of the saga, Proton had sold more than 4.1 million cars.
For those who are unaware of the significance of the date, the 9th of July holds a very important place in Proton's history. On this date, 35 years ago, the Proton saga rolled off the production line at our Shah Alam plant, and thus Malaysia joined the ranks of the nations that produce their own cars. It was a true watershed moment for the industrialization of the country, because from the saga spawned an entire ecosystem of dealers, distributors, vendors, workshops, development of new skills in our workforce.
The Proton Saga Anniversary Edition is based on the Proton Saga 1.3 Premium Automatic model and is priced at 39,300 ringgit. It is limited to 1,100 units and will be available exclusively in black with yellow highlights on both the exterior and interior. Proton also announced the inclusion of the N95 cabin filter, which was previously only available on the Proton X70. Owners of the Proton Saga, Persona, Iris and Exora models registered after 9 July 2020 will also have the option to purchase the N95 cabin filter for 59 ringgit, excluding labour charges.
N95 cabin filter. The N95 cabin filter provides a cleaner environment in the cabin to give you extra peace of mind by blocking harmful particles and purifying the air in the vehicle cabin. It does this by filtering out 95% of particles larger than 0.3 microns, removing 98% of PM2.5 dust particles. And what does this mean? The N95 filtration, which functions in the aircon system for both recirculation mode and fresh air mode provide you an effective barrier against smoke particulates, dust, bacteria, and other airborne pollutants.
Coming up next, someone did something really bad to a life-size wooden sculpture of the US First Lady. Find out what after this. A life-size wooden sculpture of US First Lady Melania Trump has been vandalized near her hometown, and the person who commissioned it wants to know who did it. A wooden sculpture of US First Lady Melania Trump was torched near her hometown of Sevnica, Slovenia on the night of July 4th, as Americans celebrated US Independence Day, said the artist who commissioned the sculpture. Brad Downey, a Berlin-based American artist, told Reuters he had the life-size black and disfigured sculpture removed as soon as police informed him on July 5th of the incident. Downey said he wanted to know why they did it. He had hoped that the sculpture would foster a dialogue about the political situation in the United States, highlighting Melania Trump's status as an immigrant married to a president sworn to reduce immigration. In Washington, the office of Melania Trump did not immediately respond to a request for comment. In recent weeks, President Donald Trump has pledged to take a hard line on anyone destroying or vandalizing U.S. historical monuments, as political activism against racial injustice has swept across the country. Downey said he had filed a police report and would like to interview the culprits if found for a film he is preparing ahead of his exhibition due to open in Slovenia in September. The figure was carved with a chainsaw by local folk artist Aleš Zupev from a trunk of a living linden tree. In January, a large wooden statue resembling Donald Trump, designed by a local artist last year, was burnt in another Slovenian city. Millions of Australians are back in lockdown as the virus outbreak worsens in Melbourne. Australia's second largest city, Melbourne, went back into lockdown at midnight on Wednesday, forcing 5 million Australians to stay home for all but essential business for the next 6 weeks. This was a step to try and contain a new spike in coronavirus cases in the city of Melbourne, the capital of Victoria. Victoria reported 134 new infections on Wednesday. State police were patrolling the city, setting up checkpoints on major roads to stop people heading out to regional areas and spreading the virus from what is now Australia's pandemic epicenter, with 860 active cases. Those in breach of the limits face fines worth more than $7,000 and up to 6 months in prison. The spike has alarmed officials, even though Australia's infection and death toll is far lower than other countries. Other states and territories have recorded few or zero cases in recent weeks and are continuing to reopen their economies. The northern state of Queensland said it would ban non-residents arriving from Victoria. It will open its borders to people from other states and territories on Friday. After enforcing restrictions early in the coronavirus outbreak compared to most other countries, Australia had begun to ease its lockdown in May to revive its economy after a significant slowdown in infection rates. Australia has so far recorded 8,900 infections and 106 deaths by Thursday. And that is all from me today. For more stories, you can go to KiniTV.com. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube and Facebook for the latest news updates. We'll be back with more tomorrow, same time, same place. I'm Prasad Michael. Thank you for watching.